So this is a video about my piece Yes and No for 22 solo strings, which is essentially a piece for string orchestra. But rather than having just 5 parts with multiple players doubling each of those parts, as is typical of pieces for string orchestra, in this case each of the 22 players has their own individual part. Now it's based almost exclusively on a single 22-note chord, which is itself just the first 22 partials of a harmonic series on C. Each of these partials is assigned to a different player in the ensemble. The fundamental and the first overtone are played by the 2 double basses, then the next 4 partials are assigned to the 4 cellos, then the next 4 partials are assigned to the 4 violas, and then the remaining 12 partials are divided between the violins. Now the main idea for this piece was that I wanted to explore whether or not it would be possible to create a conflict between 2 different theories of consonance and dissonance. Now it's fair to say that there's been quite a number of different theories of harmonic consonance and dissonance over the years. And in this case, the 2 that I'm interested in exploring are Rameau's theory of the fundamental bass and Helmholtz's theory of roughness. So Rameau's theory simply says that a chord is consonant if all of the notes in it relate to the same harmonic fundamental. He specifically says the source of harmony does not subsist merely in the perfect chord or in the 7th chord formed from it. More precisely, it subsists on the lowest sound of these 2 chords, which is, so to speak, the harmonic centre to which all the other sounds should be related. So according to this theory, the 22-note chord in this piece is consonant because it all comes from the same harmonic series and all relates to the same fundamental. So in contrast to Rameau's theory, we have Helmholtz's theory of roughness, which argues that harmonic consonance and dissonance is caused by interference between 2 very close frequencies. So to demonstrate this, here's 2 sine waves that are tuned to the same frequency, 440 Hz. If I detune one of them slightly, you'll hear the interference. It's the slow kind of fade in and out of the volume, which is known as beating. Helmholtz then states, the ear easily follows slow beats of not more than 4 or 6 in a second, but when the interval between the 2 tones increases to about a semitone, the number of beats becomes 20 or 30 in a second. Such rapidly beating tones are jarring and rough. And you can hear this if I move the 2 sine tones further apart. As they get to about a semitone apart from each other, you can hear that the beating's really fast and it gets a really kind of harsh, jarring sensation. And this is what Helmholtz argues that dissonance is. And so if I return to the 22-note chord, you can see that the upper frequencies are really close to each other, around about a semitone, some slightly narrower, some slightly wider, but they're all very close to each other. And so therefore they'll all create this sense of roughness and jarring dissonance. And so in this way we have a conflict. Seen from Rameau's theory, the chord is consonant, but seen from Helmholtz's theory, is dissonant. And this contradictory quality is what I wanted to explore in the piece, at times using the chord so it sounds consonant, and at other times making it sound dissonant, and then at other times making it a kind of ambiguous combination of both. So as an example of how I did this, here's a section from the beginning of the piece which focuses on the more dissonant quality of the chord. Then after this comes a contrasting section which focuses on the lower half of the chord, the half of the chord which has wider intervals and also has a clear fundamental and therefore has a much more consonant quality to it. And then after presenting the two contrasting sides of the chord separately, I then begin to bring the whole chord together to create an effect which is hopefully more varied and more ambiguous. And this is pretty much what plays out for the rest of the piece. I use different voicings, different articulations, and different arrangements of the chord to explore this kind of conflicted and mixed quality. So I'm not going to go through the entire piece. I just wanted to hopefully give you enough to be able to understand where I was coming from when I started it. If you'd like to give it a listen, here's the link here to the full piece with a score follower. And as of the end of August, it will also be available on all the usual streaming and download platforms. Okay, thank you.